Hi guys, welcome to this new episode. I am Ivan Mader and we are on the Act Club podcast. And today I must say I'm very grateful because we have a guest that is renowned in the world. We have a casting director, Luci Lenox, with us. Hi Lucy, how are you?
Hi, Ivan. I'm great. Very happy to be here. Very happy to be talking to you.
Oh yes, I'm very happy that you agreed to meet with us. Also because you have a pretty wild career. So to begin our interview, I must ask you. You have a pretty wild story. How did you become a casting director?
Okay. I mean, it's a very long story, but it's basically, I'm a very much a product of my time and my generation. When as part of my studies, I studied in Barcelona. So I was here for a year, a bit like Erasmus, but
Yes.
before Erasmus. And when I graduated, it was 1990, and there wasn't really any work in what I thought I wanted to do. And I ended up coming to Barcelona via Italy. And I ran nightclubs for a long time during the 90s in
Oh
Barcelona.
wow.
I've done all kinds of different things because I was always doing stuff waiting for my life to really begin or, my career, to be able to go back to Ireland. And then after many years, I wanted a day job and I was a little bit naive. I thought working in film was a day job. It's not, it's a day and a night job. It's a 24-hour job.
Yeah.
And I got a job in a production company. I worked a little bit for MTV. But then I met a casting director and he needed an English speaking person to help him just for one day. And then I discovered what casting was. And then later on, he offered me a job to work with him, Pep Armengol, a Spanish Catalan casting director. And I started working in casting and I combined casting with production and event production for quite a long time. And then it came to a point where I had to choose which one I did. And I chose casting. And well, I always think that casting chose me, but I love my job, basically. So that's the very short version.
Okay.
But that was, I've been doing it for a very long time now, and I like over 20 years, and I really love my profession.
Yeah. So you said that you had to make a choice. So why casting was the right choice for you?
Well, casting was the right choice for me because it is such a good way to work in the film industry because I love reading. I love reading scripts. I love stories. I love narrative. I like problem solving, but I don't like getting up early. So when you work on production, you have to get up incredibly early sometimes and you're there all day. And a lot of the times in production, if you're doing a really good job in production, you don't have very much to do, when you're quite, because a lot of production is problem solving, but if you've done really good preparation, there aren't so many problems.
Yeah.
And I hate sitting around. I'm slightly hyperactive. Whereas, and also in production, you have to be there all day, every day. And in casting, you can make your own timetables.
Yes.
So like if I need to go to the dentist, I can make an appointment. Whereas when I was in production, I had to wait for the shoot to be over to go to the dentist, or I had to wait for, um, or if a family crisis happened. Like casting is much more compatible with having a balanced life and working in the film crew where you're on set, whatever the role is one of the biggest problems in our industry is that it's very long hours. Where every industry is cutting hours, film production is still very long shooting hours, very long working days, and not always compatible with a balanced life.
Yeah, sure. And it's all in pre-production, the casting process.
Yeah, it's in pre-production, but it's just we work in a different time scale.
Yeah.
So we don't where I don't have to be somewhere for 12 hours a day. I
Yeah.
mean, I often work over 12 hours a day, but I can also schedule time out for lunch or, doctor's appointments or walking my dog or going to the gym. All these things that I feel
Yeah.
I like. I
You
love the
have
way
a
I say well, going to the gym. I don't actually go to the gym, but I do go to Pilates class once a week.
yes.
But, and also for me, there's something about casting which is so collaborative, but I love the problem solving. Like each role is a problem, and I have to find a solution to that. So I find it very stimulating, and every project is slightly different.
Yeah. So speaking of that, what you are when you're watching audition, what you are hoping to find when the right actor shows up? What
Mhm.
or more what you are hoping to feel when the right actor shows up?
That they are the solution to the problem, because every role is a different problem. So, and it's very important to understand that every director, he or she has their own criteria, their own style, or showrunner or producer. So when I see somebody, when I know the actor well, I just want to see, oh, they've really got this role, they're perfect for it. And, or if I don't know them, it's just like, oh, they're so interesting. They'd be such a good choice. Because for casting directors, we don't choose, we put forward. I always say to actors, we're not buying the actor, we're selling the actor. So when I see somebody's done a really good job, or I feel it's like, I think, oh, they're just right for this person, for the director, or they're exactly what they're looking for. And then I have a selection and I put them forward for those roles. And I'm like, so when I see somebody who has just really absorbed the role and is doing a very natural performance, and and they tick all the right boxes, I just feel a sense of, oh, good.
A sense
Sometimes
of
we
a
feel like,
relief.
oh, yeah, well, I mean, not, I don't think relief is the right word because I'm not tense about it. So I'm not sitting there going, oh, I'm never going to find them. I just feel, oh, good. It's just, satisfaction, maybe.
Okay, perfect. So, what's something that actors often misunderstand about casting directors?
What I've just said, that they think that we choose, whereas we don't. I've often, actors are like, oh, thank you so much for that. I always I'm known as a good casting director because I give my clients good choices. So I think that's one of them. Another one is that we don't like actors. Like we do. I really like actors. But I suppose another misconception would be that, you know, I think it's very difficult for actors to understand that acting is so vocational. I really believe that actors are born actors and then they die actors, and then there's a lot of choice in the middle, so it's about the choices they make, but it's also about their circumstances, the castings, and all that kind of stuff. But it's very vocational. And casting is not what I would call vocational. So if I'm not being paid to be a casting director, I will have to get another job. I won't go round at the weekends trying to get a job casting
Yes.
for free. I'm not, and I think that's a misconception because actors are sometimes disappointed, that I don't want to take their emails at the weekend, or that I don't spend my whole time looking at Instagram, or that my hobby is not looking at their show reels, and I think that is a misconception in that, you know, casting is a very good job. You have to be very passionate about it. You have to really love it, but it is also a job. And whereas acting is more, I don't think you're born a casting director. And I definitely know that if I was not being employed as a casting director, I would use my personal skills to do something else.
Yeah, as you did before doing
Yeah,
casting.
exactly.
Okay, perfect. So, on a personal level, what part of your job is giving you the more joy and the part that is giving you the least joy?
The part that gives me the most joy is just when you get a new project and you start brainstorming and you read the script and think, oh, this is going to be really great. But I also there's so much joy in my job because when somebody does a good casting, or when it's great when you let somebody know that they've got the role. And it's also great when you sit in a cinema and you watch the film and you think, oh, okay, I was a part of this. I was, a part of this process. So there's a lot of joy in my job. What doesn't give me joy is when I have to let an actor know who did an amazing job that they didn't get it. That is can be heartbreaking. And then the absolute worst thing is when you have to tell an actor who you thought had got the job and they thought they got the job, that for the job has been cut, or when somebody has been in a film and they've shot the whole film, but they're not in the final edit. And I'm sometimes asked to let them know, and that's always very difficult.
Oh, yeah. So, in base of that, do you remember one time that you really fought for an actor, like it was a battle to make him the role?
No. I mean, there are many times, but they're not really, it's very, it's not my production. So, I've really tried, you know, I mean, there's one, where I resigned from the job because there was just so clear that the director no, I didn't resign. I got sacked. I was lying.
Oh,
But it was because I really believed in somebody and they just couldn't see it. But normally it's not my baby. It's not my production. It's like I can't, if the director doesn't want the person and if she or he wants to work with somebody else, the film is directed by and produced by. And I am just part of the process and I have to give them what they want. And, I can be very clear about who I think is the best. But part of me doing my job is it's making them think it was their idea. So if I fight very hard for somebody that they don't want, it's not my job to do that. And it's not my style. If they ask me for my opinion, of course I'll say who I think is right.
yes.
There have been times that I'm quite a lot of times, the person who I put forward first gets the role because I've analyzed who's right and stuff like that. But if the director or the producer or the showrunner doesn't see it, it's not. I can't do much more than saying I see it. So
Yeah, yeah. So, how often do you think, yeah, this actor is really good, but it's just not right for this particular role, but it would be great in another thing?
all the time.
Yeah.
All the time because there's so many reasons that people are not right for roles.
So, how much freedom do you really have in the final decision, like you just said
Very
before?
little,
Yeah.
you know. I mean, it depends on the production as well, because sometimes people really trust me and they want, more input, but sometimes they don't. It just depends on the production. But I basically pride myself on giving directors, showrunners, and producers good choices so that they feel very secure in being able to choose.
Yes.
And I feel like I don't give them lots of choices. It's very down to marketing. Like if you give somebody too many choices, they can't choose. So if you give them a carefully curated set of choices that meet their requirements, they will find the one that's right for them.
Yeah, yeah. So it has to be in the right amount of choice that they have the impression of the choosing, but they have not so much to be lost in the choices, right?
Exactly. And that's my job as a casting director. That's what we are here to do.
Yeah, yeah, that's very interesting. So, on another subject, what's your take on AI with the actors? And a little bird told me that it was one of your major interests at this moment. So, how can AI help the actors in their career?
Okay, AI, it's very important that people understand what AI is in relation to us. So there's all kinds of different AI. Like often when I talk to people, they're like AI, and I'm like, you think that there's one thing? I mean, we all use AI, like GPS is one of the first forms of AI. So when we're working out how to get somewhere, that is AI. But I think the large learning models can be very helpful for planning time, but they're not about creativity, but it's about all the reasons an actor wants to be I mean, actors love acting, and it can't help you with that, but it can help you with keeping your list, getting in touch with casting directors, working out how to write a really good bio with your marketing plan, with your social media plan, all the things that when I ask actors what they hate most about their careers, it can help with those. It can help rewrite an email because, actors write very bad emails quite a lot of the time to casting directors, and they're really long and they're really boring. So if you can say to a large learning model, which is Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini, I want to write to a casting director, please make this shorter. And then it's very, very important that people understand with AI and LLM, the large learning models, language models, sorry, is that it should begin with a human and end with a human. It's not putting out churn. It's not making it do all the work. There's a lot of very scary things with AI that people are stopping using themselves. But, for example, I use it a lot for when I'm writing mails in Spanish. So
Yeah.
I will write in Spanish, I write it, and then I just say, please, can you polish this and correct it? And then it just corrects it. And I've got a degree in Spanish, but I still make mistakes. And it corrects it, but it's still my way of talking. It's still my language. It doesn't come out as churn. I use it sometimes to repurpose things like my bio. I might, want my bio to be more skewed towards television or more skewed towards my work with refugees or something else. And I just put my bio in, I ask it to polish it, and then I take it out. I use it a lot to help me plan, because, and the other thing that you can do with it, you can set it up to be your accountability coach. So for example, every day I get an email from the large language model that I use, and it says, write down what you did today, write down what you skipped doing, write down what you want to do tomorrow. 4 or 5 questions. And I do that every night. And then it analyzes it and it can remind me, hey, you haven't done enough of this. Or don't forget that your goals for tomorrow are too fuzzy. And this is a very powerful thing to do because it's not, it needs to be curated. Or, I write a newsletter every week for the Actors Home and I write it, but I ask ChatGPT to send me what it thinks is interesting in the news. And then, but I'm very careful with it. I have a very, very long, very extensive prompt, like don't hallucinate. You have to provide the source. And then I will read the article. Then I play around, I iterate, and then I get a very interesting article that I publish every week on a few newsletters, but it has to be checked. It has to be things. So for an actor, I think that they can use AI to support them in a way, especially, for actors who don't have PR. A main actor has PR, a main actor, an A-lister, has
Yeah.
a PR, has a lawyer, has a manager, and has an agent. An actor in Europe who's not making that much money can't afford a PR, can't afford a lawyer, can't afford a manager and just has an agent. And you can use this to help you plan a PR campaign, help you. And it's just about what I call supportive AI. What I don't think we should be using it for is replacing actors. And I hate when people say an AI actor because it's not an actor, it's an avatar. It's a computer generated image. So I would never call that an actor. And I think that actually will work in European actors' benefit because I think the more we get these perfection, the more we're going to want real people,
Yeah.
human beings. I think that theatre is going to come back. If I want to go out, I want to go to see theatre. I want to see human beings in a room doing human things, and same like now every month we do a coffee morning in my studio in Barcelona and I bake a cake. And the reason I started doing that was because I study AI and I've just got my certificate from the Spanish television program today.
Congratulations.
And I got very high marks and I'm very proud. I
Congratulations.
haven't done a course where I've been graded since I left university, so that was quite a long time ago. But I was studying the thing, and now you can make a clone of yourself. And I could do this. I could have sent a clone to do this podcast, and they would have my voice and they would look like me. I would never do that. I'm never going to make a clone of myself. But I got so kind of like this. I got so I don't know. I don't know if the word shocked or you know crucially aware of what AI can do, that I had a very strong visceral reaction that I need to be more human. And it was just in the middle of the night. And in the middle of the night, I said, okay, how can I do that? And I said, I can bake a cake. And I don't bake cakes. I'm not really a baker, but I used to bake cakes with my grandmother when I was little. And it was a very strong reaction. I said, and I came in and I talked to my team the next day. I said, you know what, we're going to do a coffee morning every month. And I am going to make a commitment that I will bake a cake because I don't know anything more human than assembling a cake.
Yeah.
And then I'm sharing that cake with actors. And, it's for me, that's something that's very important. It's a small part of my activism in this age where I believe that we have to use new technology. I don't believe that we can go back from new technology. Part of the reason I study it a lot is I believe in keeping my enemies very close to me. And I also believe in studying them. I'm not like, I don't want to know. I'm somebody, I read a lot. I have a degree in history. I like to know both sides of the story.
Yeah.
And I really want to learn as much about AI as possible. And I do a lot. I've been doing a lot of studying, a lot of going to, those webinars, and I've paid to do two very high level courses. And not, I haven't just done the free, sales funnels ones that you have. And my reaction to that is, okay, I'm going to bake a cake a month.
I think that it's an excellent idea to gather the real people in real life, and I think that's a great idea. And so to resume what you just said, it's just using AI to have a better organization, to write better emails, but just not to use it on the artistic side, but just on the like the thing that we actors are bad at, it, which is organization.
Organization and surprisingly, communication. It's a very weird thing for me. And I think part of it is because actors, the desire to be an actor is a child's brain. And then our business and management and marketing requires an adult brain. And I think that AI can help actors to have an adult brain related to the business and protect the child's brain, which you need to be a child to be a good actor. I don't mean you need to be immature, but you need to be open. You need to have
Yeah.
wonder. You need to be able to explore. You need to have imagination. And this has to be protected. And I see a lot of actors, when they get too many no's, then they start using the adult brain for the acting, but they keep using the child and the reactive brain for the business side.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, I guess I love your take on AI, and it's refreshing to hear that, because we hear a lot of AI is scary and they will replace us. But in the end, people were scared of the electricity and were scared of the internet, and now we all live in a
Yeah.
world with
I mean, I
electricity
can
and internet.
remember like years when email came in, because I come from the era that I worked with fax, and we used to have to send the sides for actors with faxes. And I got into big trouble, when email came in. I've always been an early adopter. I'm a very nerdy person. I like technology. I like learning things. So I remember I wanted to send the sides to an actor. And so I called his manager, and this is before people use it. I said, "Oh, can I send him the sites by email?" And they were like, "No, he doesn't have an email account." And I said, "Well, I can make him an email account." And they said no, and I said yes, I can, and he can go to an internet cafe and he can just get the sides there and print them, and I don't have to fax them, and I don't have to send them by post. Because we used to even, one of my first jobs when I worked in casting was I used to walk around Barcelona handing scripts to people
Oh yeah.
because I'd have to take them the script, and I would set off. And I mean, I loved it. I could wander around, sit, have coffee, smoke a cigarette, but it was a very different time.
Yeah.
And then the agent said to me, "Oh, um, just send them how they've always been sent." And I said, "By carrier pigeon."
Yeah.
And then they made a big complaint, and it was like, and I know who the agent was, and I know who the actor was, and now when I see them, and I'm like, I wonder, do you have an email account yet? But I
Yeah.
don't remind them because they rang up and they complained. They said I was very, very insolent and rude because I told them I was sending the sides by carrier pigeon.
Yeah, but I guess who doesn't have an email at our time? So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm talking about 20 years ago. I mean, I can still remember the first person who explained what an email was to me.
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I mean, I can remember it was an American, and he was explaining it all to me, and I was like, Wow, this is weird. And I can remember when, things like Facebook came out.
Yeah, also the social media. Yeah, totally right. Yeah, so we have to live in the world we are in and be aware of the new mentality and the new technology that.
And I mean, I do have to say that I do think AI is a much bigger change. I mean, I think that we are really changing from, what we would call we're changing from the industrial era and the tech era into the AI era. And we are, it's going to have very radical changes. It's already having radical changes in, you know, politics, war, um, and it will affect our industry as well. And I'm not I can't see into the future. I don't know exactly how it's going to affect everything. And I think a lot of people are making very loud pronouncements about what's going to happen. And I don't think they really know. And I don't think anybody really knows. But I'm like keeping my eye out, learning, enjoying learning, using it for what I feel is right and making my own ethical decisions about it. And,
Yeah.
and then we'll just see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's one of the answer that we could work as artists, and we just have to deal with it. So, on another subject, what your take on street casting, casting people on the street, and which can create friction with crafted actors, which spent a life learning it, and do you personally do it, and what's your
It just depends on the director, and
yeah.
it depends. And it's such a weird thing. I mean, I there are some roles that only a really well-trained actor could do. I'm very keen on well-trained actors, but there are some actors who've done all the studies, done everything, and they still can't act. There's something like that. And then there are children who can do Oscar-winning performances. One of my favorite Spanish films is called 20 Species of Bee. There's a child in it who's playing a trans child, and her performance or their performance is incredible. And they've never trained. They were a child. Um, I've cast people. I cast somebody who was their first role was when they were 90 and they'd never been an actor. And then suddenly they had a very successful but brief career because they didn't live for very long. But I was so happy to cast that person because their life experience made them perfect. And it just depends on the project, it depends on the role, it depends on what you're asking them to do, and it depends on the director. Some directors are very good at directing natural actors, and some directors need to work with trained actors. And there is stuff that, a trained actor can do, and there's stuff that a natural actor can do because of their life experience. Like, it's very difficult. It's a very difficult question because for me, each role has different requirements, so you're not going to put somebody who's never been in front of a camera to do something that requires things that are very far from them. But, when you're casting I don't know, somebody with lived experience, and that person has that lived experience, and you're asking them to play that. There's some people who are just natural and they're good at it. So you have to really, really look. I mean, I was asked to cast a film that was going to require a lot of street casting. And I said no, even though I loved the film and I loved the concept and it's won a lot of awards, this film. But I said no because it takes a lot of time because
Yeah.
you really have to be there and you have to live with the in this would have been living in that community for quite a long time. And if I didn't have to pay all the many bills that I have to pay, etc., I would have loved to have done it, but it would have been just doing that. And I have a great admiration for people, and there's amazing directors. We have amazing directors like Carla Simon, and she's worked with many, many natural actors and she's very good at directing them. And we have other examples of people, you know, um, even like the kids in Slumdog Millionaire.
Yeah.
They weren't actors and they did amazing
Yeah,
performances,
they were good. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. So coming back to what you said before, how do you deal with with saying no all the time to a lot of actors?
Well, I don't think I say no. I mean, it depends. I mean, the problem is, it's not saying, I don't really understand what you mean by saying no to actors.
Like when you said that like they didn't get the part and
Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, it's just somebody else got the part. So it's not so much as a no, it's just like, for me, it's thank you. I'm always trying to thank actors for being part of my world. Um, and that's just part of the job. One of my other first jobs when I worked for Pepper Marangol was writing all the, notes to actors saying you didn't get the job. Thank you very much. I mean, I try to make sure that I mean, I think it's very important for actors to know that the outcome is not the feedback.
Yeah.
So just because they didn't get the job doesn't mean they didn't do a good job. Just meant that it was for somebody else. It's like falling in love. The role has to fall in love with just one actor. Same way in our society, you can only, marry one person at a time. And the role can only marry one actor, but it might want to marry five or six, but it can't. It's just one.
Yeah, that's
Like roles are monogamous.
That's beautifully said, I must say. Yeah, I love the analogy of the wedding, the marrying. Yeah, I guess that's pretty poetic. Thank you. I love this answer. Um, Based on that, is there such thing as a bad audition? And did you see bad audition, like really bad?
Yeah. When there's a bad audition, in the if somebody turns up on drugs and drunk, that's
Did,
a bad audition,
did
and
it
that's
really
happened.
happen?
Yeah, of course. People get, particularly people with addiction problems, they get nervous and then suddenly they think, oh, I'll have a joint to calm me down.
Oh
And then
yeah.
they maybe have too much of a joint. Or there are people with more serious addiction problems, or there are people with alcoholism. And for them, that's it. So that's like a car crash of an audition.
Oh yeah.
Then I've had some very bad auditions when people haven't learned the lines because there's some very weird advice that comes from America where you're told not to learn the lines, that you have to have the script in your hand. And I personally, having worked for 20 years, have never seen a director react well to somebody who doesn't know their lines. And then on Zoom, because now we're doing a lot of auditions on Zoom, I've seen some terrible auditions because the person has got flustered because the Zoom didn't work at the beginning. Like me, when I came on here, I had an issue because I had a producer call me 2 minutes before and I had to take their call. And then I came down and my technician had got it all ready for me, but they had it ready on a different email account where I didn't have access to the Zoom to this account. And also somebody else is on our company Zoom doing another job at the moment. So I needed to change a few things and I don't like being late. So I was a little bit flustered. But if I'd spent the whole of our conversation thinking, oh, I fucked up because I wasn't on time or because I couldn't work the Zoom. And I've seen actors do that. And it doesn't matter how many times I tell them, you're not here to prove that can use Zoom. You're here to do the character.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yes, there are bad auditions, but the bad auditions, normally the actor knows
Yeah.
because they're very radical. And then when actors think they've done a bad audition, unless it's very clear, they usually are fine. But, oh, and another bad audition is when somebody's trying to show you that they can act. And bad self tapes, which are slightly different to bad auditions, sometimes because actors have done like 5 or 6 self tapes in a row and they haven't booked the job, they think they have to change something. So they go rogue and suddenly they're doing it in a weird accent or they've changed their voice or they're doing something really. And I'm like, no, we're calling you in and again for a new project because you were really good in the last 5 projects. You
Yeah.
didn't book them, and I understand that that's very difficult, but we're not calling you in to see you be different. We're just calling you in to see what you're like in this role.
Yeah. Okay. So that brings me to my next question about self tapes. What's one thing that actors overthink on self tapes and one thing they underthink?
Okay. One thing they overthink or they don't think about at the right time is the production. Like the most common question actors ask me about self tapes is what color should my background be? And I'm like, you're never going to get the job because of your background. You need to think about the character. So what they overthink is the production because it's not something that they enjoy and something they do. So they spend an awful lot of time getting the camera ready and getting that. And then you can see them. Like when somebody says to me, I did a really good self-tape, and I'm like, what was good about it? And they're like, the lighting, the sound. I'm like, okay, but how about the character? Because that is what's going to book you the role. Doesn't mean, just to be really clear, yes, they have to be presented. And I'm so sorry that actors have such stress with this. Yes, you have to be seen. Yes, you have to do the lighting. Yes, you have to sound right. Yes, but don't think about that first. No, think about that like separately to preparing for the role so that you don't mix up the motivation of the character with your motivation to do a good self-tape technically.
Yeah,
Like they have to be separate in my mind.
two
Like
hats.
two hats and not at the same time.
Yeah, just like you have the hat of the producer and the hat of the actor, but they are
Yeah.
not at the same
But
time.
the producer should have already done that long before you started rehearsing for the role, in my opinion. And I know that it's not always possible. So that is what they think about too much. And what was the second part of the question?
What they underthink, like they should think more
What they
about that.
underthink is why they're right for the role. Like my advice to actors is before you do a self-tape, when you get the sides, read them, read the character description, and then sit for 10 minutes thinking about why you're right for the role. Why did that casting office call me in? Why did my agent think I was right for the role? And really let that sink in. Like, what is good about me for this role? What is good about this role for me? Because then when you start learning your lines, when you start preparing, you're doing from a position of strength and calm and not from a position of stress response and like, oh, I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm too fat, I'm too thin, I'm too good looking, I'm not good looking enough, I'm not famous enough. Somebody, when you're asked to do a casting, somebody in the world genuinely believes that you're right for it. And you have to know why, and you have to feel that you're right for it, because then your whole way of preparation changes. And then you do it because when people go into stress response, they stop listening and they stop making good decisions. So everything you have to do about getting for casting is about like, oh, this is great, this is fine for me. And then that allows you to have more fun, that allows you to, you know, live the character, live the arc, because you're doing it from the fact that you're right for it. And then play that role that has been given to you, even if it was just in the casting stage, for as long as you're allowed to.
Yeah. So what you're saying is more like we should be thinking about what's right instead of thinking about what's could going wrong about our character. Like,
No, but it's not even what's right. It's just thinking that you're what's right about you. Why are you perfect for it? You know, creating that moment so that you can fall in love and the
yeah,
character can fall in love with you.
yeah, that's perfectly said. Thank you. So, on another subject, what's your personal opinion about the fact that casting is finally represented at the Oscar that was not so long ago? I think was 2 days ago. I don't remember.
Yeah, it was on
Yeah,
Sunday night.
yeah, and I think you were a part of that. If I remember, you were part of
I'm
the
a member of the
jury.
Academy.
Yeah,
I'm a member of the Academy, so I can vote for my category. I mean, I can vote in all the categories in the finals, but I was invited this year, which is a huge honor, and I'm
yeah.
very, very pleased
Congratulations.
about it. Thank you. Thank you. No, I think it's great. I think casting is so important. Like when you say to somebody, there's this film coming out, the first question they say, who's in it? And casting, we're part of the process. It's very complicated. My colleagues have been working for many years to to get an Academy Award. There are reasons why it didn't happen before because it's very easy for other people to take the credit for casting. And sometimes people don't really understand what casting is, but it is part of the creative process. And I think it's really important for casting directors and important for actors, because so many films in Europe have to be financed by cast. So unless you have an A-lister, your film won't get made. And what I'm hoping now is that with the recognition of casting directors and the recognition of what casting directors do and how influential they can be in putting together a good cast, giving the people good choices, that hopefully people will be able to say, no, we don't have a star attached, but we do have Natalie Chiron casting my film. And then people say, oh, well, if Natalie's casting the film, it's going to be good, so let's put money into it.
Oh yeah, yeah, perfect. Actually, I saw Natalie on Saturday because she was in Meals for Monologue, and I just encountered her Saturday, which is
Oh,
funny that you say that.
she's so passionate about doing meals for monologues. Now, I haven't spoken to her since because she spends a lot of time putting it together and it's such a wonderful, wonderful thing to do. Did you
Yeah,
enjoy it?
yeah, that was a good project. I wasn't with her on the part of the monologue, but I saw her because she's the one at the entrance. About this beautiful project, you yourself created the actor's home, which is a beautiful project as well. So can you tell me more about how it was created, why it was created, and tell me more about this
Okay,
beautiful
the Actors
project?
Home was created. It's kind of began, its very beginning began during the pandemic
Yeah,
because just before the pandemic, I was planning to do a networking event at my studio for young directors and actors with a young director called Kristen Dania. And we were just planning it because we were like, oh, directors, young directors always want to meet actors, actors always want to meet directors. We should do something. And we were working on it. And then the pandemic hit. And then I was really bored at home and I didn't want to bake bread or cakes or anything. And I just thought, oh, so I sent Kristen an Instagram message and said, hey, why don't we do this online? And he was like, yeah. And he was, his circumstances were that he was at home living with his mum and, and my circumstances were very weird. And I was at home. And so we started doing something that we called Get Inspired on Facebook, and it grew really quickly. And we had people from all over the world. We did lots of table reads. We did lots of helping script writers, and some of those scripts that we did have been made into films or have been greenlit. So it was very, very interesting, and it was very interesting. We had people from literally all over the world coming together, and people made friends. Like there's some people who are still friends from that moment in time.
incredible.
And then after the pandemic stopped, or we did it mainly during lockdown, and also because I didn't want to do, I didn't want to do online courses or anything. I didn't want to charge actors when they couldn't work either. So I was very, I just did that for fun and it was nice. Then 2021, I found very difficult personally on a personal level because we weren't in lockdown, so there was no reasons, but we were in curfew. I'm a very social person, and I felt really miserable because all I could do was go to work and go home. And I live beside my work, as in, my house is next, well, 5-minute walk from my studio. And it was quite a lonely time. I couldn't go home to where I'm from Ireland. So I didn't really do anything. And then we kind of, and also it was just a different time. It was quite great. And then I thought, oh, that was such a positive thing for actors that they connected with each other. And I thought, oh, well, I'll do it again. And I started it up. I mean, this is a very short version of the story because there were other people involved in the beginning. So then I decided on 2022 to do it, but I didn't want to do it on social media. Things changed a lot in the world in 21 and 22 as well. There was, the war started in Russia and Ukraine,
Yes.
and there were a lot of reasons. And then the other thing that I didn't like, I'm very clear on the Actors Home that we don't do any upselling. So I don't even market my own courses on it. And that was also what I had on Get Inspired because I really wanted to not have actors feel like they were being sold to, or that if they didn't have the money, they wouldn't have access. And that's very difficult to control on social media. Like I had a lot of, I had all kinds of approvals put on, but people would find the way and then suddenly they'd be promoting something and they'd be like, so I decided I didn't want to do it on social media. I wanted to do it on a private platform, which is where we host the Actors Home. And so I pay for the platform and I pay quite a lot of money to have it. But that gives me the freedom to control that nobody can use those names, nobody can post anything. It's a very I have a full-time producer, Andre Verde.
Mm,
It's very moderated, which means that there's no toxicity in it.
wow.
And that's very important to me. It's a community. It's a community where everybody knows that there is a person behind it. We work on lots of different things. We have a book club because I actually think that people should read more.
Yeah.
And we've had all, we just had Declan Donovan come last month, who's amazing. Declan Donovan. Everyone should read his book, The Actor in the Space, The Actor in the Target. We have a film club where we highlight films. We do daily tips. We do all kinds of things. And we do events in the film festivals like the Berlinale, in
Mm,
Cannes, Sitges Film Festival, and other film festivals during the year where people who've only met online suddenly meet in person.
that's great.
And that's amazing. And it's just, for me, it's a way of giving back. I've been very lucky. I've had a really good career. I still have a really good career. I like actors. I like demystifying things for them. We have lots of casting directors who come and talk. We have all kinds of things. I also believe that self-confidence is very important and trust. And I feel like knowledge gives you that, and that there's a lot of gaslighting in our industry,
Hmm.
you know, and it's very, and I believe in community, and I believe in the power of community. So that's kind of what's happened. And it's grown. We have people in 70 different countries. We're always growing. We're very organic in the way we grow.
Yeah.
It's it's like my pet project. I like it. And it's fun.
So how much people are in this actors
About
globally?
1,400 people, I think.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I would like it to be a lot more because the more people that are in it, the more things that we can do. Because
Yeah.
these things like people are meeting up. We have a tape mate. People meet up to help each other with tapes, in the room and things like that. The more we give prizes. We had an Oscar ballot. The people who won, they each get €100 to help them pay for a training course.
Oh.
Our 1 minute film that was won by Gianna Awad, that has been seen on social media by over 4 million people.
Oh wow.
And that has taken a relatively, you know, not not known, very, very talented Palestinian actress who's based in Spain now. And suddenly she's had something go viral because she did our 1 minute film competition. And her film is beautiful. And it's so, so touching, so moving. But that is opening up opportunities for her that she wouldn't have had possibly otherwise.
Sure. Yes.
And there's a lot of other things. We plant trees every month in Ireland because I like setting off our carbon footprint. So we have a commitment to do that. We're free for refugees. There are many, many refugees that we have helped in different ways, but creative ways, so that they meet other actors in their new residence. And to me, that's really important, so that our community is kind, our community is supportive, but it's also successful. Like we've had, in the Berlinale, we had 3 of our members were in the Berlinale Talents. Our Samir, his film won the Perspectives. Um, Samir Bisharat, his film won the Perspectives section in the Berlinale, and İpek is another Turkish actress. She was in the film that won the Golden Bear. So it's not a community for people who want to be actors. It's a community for people who are working as actors. But it's cool.
Yeah, yeah. I guess it's pretty cool, and I must say I was very eager to talk with you about this subject, and now I'm totally convinced, and I think I will definitely enroll myself.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, yeah, because Antea told me a lot about the actors home when we were together, and she told me, "Why, that's great. She does this and that," and I went, "Wow, really?" And that's really great. So I want to say congratulations for this project because it means a lot for actors who can think they're alone and they're isolated when they are not working and they have not projects at the moment. And I think it's good to have a community to exchange and
Yeah. And one of the things is I'm a very social person. And like when I was, you know, in my early 20s, we had bars that everybody went to. Like I have a lot of my jobs because there was a bar in Barcelona where all the actors went to. It was called Doraval. And then there was another one, which I'd forgotten its name, but that's where I got jobs. Not, I wasn't an actor, but I got jobs in theatre. And I got all kinds of different opportunities. But now, with the cost of living crisis, it's very expensive to go out all the time.
Yes.
And people, we didn't have TV at home or internet. So everybody went out. Like if you wanted to meet somebody or if you wanted to have sex, you had to go out of your house. And
Yeah.
now it feels like people are just like, okay, slight rest, slight rest. I think that's going to change. But it was a very different time. And then I felt that, for me, people have to meet other people and you have to talk and you have to meet different people. You have to, what I like about the Actors Home is we have people from 18 to, I think, in their 70s. I don't think at the moment we have anybody in their 80s, but there's a whole range. And there are people who are starting out. There are people who've come back after being mums or dads. There are people who were businessmen and now they're back being actors. And then there are people who are just out of drama school. And these are all the people that you will work together and everybody's opinion is valid. And but it's not as stressful. It's really important for me to communicate that we don't post castings on it. And everybody goes, why don't you do that? You get so many more members. And I'm like, no, because there are casting platforms. And two, I don't want to create competitivity in it. I don't want to be people trying to show their best face. The Actors Home is somewhere where you can share your triumphs, and we really celebrate your triumphs, and we put them all over social media. When you get that, we're trying to elevate the triumphs, but you can also come with your not with, like I spend a lot of time. People are this month. There've been so many casting scams, and it breaks my heart. So people will send me a thing. I've got this casting, but it looks amazing, but I'm not sure if it's a scam or not. And I'm like, yeah, it's a scam,
Red flag.
but we can do that in the privacy
Yeah, it's more like
of,
of a cocoon.
yeah, it's like a cocoon. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a safe place or
That's
a safe place.
yeah, that's important.
But a safe, like a cocoon and an incubator. Like we're trying to get people ready to fly and we give them as many different.
Oh yeah, that's beautiful to say it. But okay, so on for one of the last questions, what would you say? It's a question that I ask all of my guests, but what would you say if you met your younger self right now in the street of Barcelona?
Well, that's a surprise.
What advice would you give the young Luci Lenox?
I've often think about this. I what advice would I give? Oh, I'd probably tell them, which is advice I give to younger people as well. Learn about money would be the thing. Like learn how to, you know, invest, things like that, because that's parallel. I'm very radical, creative, eccentric person. And so I think I had a fairly unhealthy attitude to money. I'm very good at making money and I'm even better at spending it.
Yeah.
And I give away a lot of money as well. But I think that if I had been taught about, you know, I, yeah, and people did tell me. I can remember I had when I lived in Italy when I was a teenager. I did have a very nice friend from Morocco who came from a very very poor family in Morocco, and he told me when I was 19, save something from every time you make some money, put some away. And he said you can buy yourself something nice so that the hard work is worth it, but keep putting it away. I didn't listen to him. I was like, no, that will come so I think. I mean, and I'm not complaining at all about how my life went, but I think that, especially the way things going, that would be the advice I would give. Like, learn about money so that it doesn't control you and you control it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't learn about it, it controls you. Because the lack of money is, I was brought up in the love of money is the root of all evil. But I think the fear of money is the root of all evil because then you end up having to work in things that you don't necessarily want to work at when you're my age and you don't have choice. And I think I'd like choice. And then I guess I would probably give myself an awful lot of advice, but I think I'd mainly just be like, hey, that was fun. That was a wild ride. I mean, I think me and my 8-year-old, I mean, it's very interesting because my 8-year-old self, my 10-year-old self, I had a complicated childhood. I have a complicated family. I had a complicated growing up. So I guess it would be me talking to the 8-year-old saying, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay. You're going to be really happy in life. It doesn't matter, the things that, um, yeah, I think that's it. And I mean, it's interesting because I'm very aware that I have amazing highs in my life. I've gone to incredible places. I've traveled all over the world, not as a tourist, but because I've been invited. Um, I've worked in very weird countries. Well, not very weird countries, but countries that people don't normally go to.
Yes.
I've been to Malawi, I've been to Macedonia, those are the M countries. But and I've met incredible people and I'm very independent. I live in Barcelona, which is an amazing place to live.
Yeah.
I've just bought an amazing property on the coast, and
Wow.
I also own a house in Barcelona, and I've done it all on my own. And I'm quite happy. So I think I would just say to the 8-year-old, don't worry. I'd probably tell the 8-year-old things are going to get really, really, really dark and really bad, but then they're going to get better. And I believe that if you haven't had those really bad times, sometimes you're not going to appreciate the really good times. Like I am so grateful for my life. And every morning, and people think I'm nuts, like I wake up in a good mood every morning and I walk down this hill towards my office and I look at the sea and I think I live somewhere where the skies are blue. I live in Europe, which at the moment I live in Spain. I have very good passports because I have two.
Yeah.
But I have an Irish passport, which is a great passport. I have very good friends. I've been treated very, very well by the profession, and I am kind of happy with what I do. So, yeah, that's kind of what I would say to the 8-year-old. It's going to be okay.
That's
That things
beautiful.
will get tough, but it will be okay.
Yeah, that's beautiful, and you enjoy the high moments when you had low moments.
Yeah.
That can't be truer about
And I
that.
also say, when I'm on a low moment, I said that's the price you pay for the high. Like I didn't choose this life. I
Yeah.
didn't choose a life of calm and stability. I chose this, and I'm kind of happy with that.
Oh yes, I'm so glad we had this talk. It's so interesting to talking with you, and your insight is very interesting. So for my last question, sadly, have you news to share about some projects, if you're allowed to say it, some
There's
news?
this thing called NDA, non-disclosure agreement.
Yes.
And I sign so many of those that if I contravene them, I would owe more money than the entire Spanish revenue. Exciting news for me is that there is a lot of work, that some of the projects that I have cast are filming at the moment, which is incredibly exciting. That we're planning Cannes. We're going to do a big event in Cannes,
Wow.
which all the Actors Home members are invited to, which will be on the 15th of February. 15th of February, 15th of May.
Yeah.
Um, I'm also excited. I'm going to Lithuania at the end of the month, at the end of March. And I'll be meeting Lithuanian actors. And then, in terms of what I can say about exciting about casting, I can't tell you because then I would have to pay lots of money. But there's lots of it. I mean, life is good for me at the moment. So I'm very excited about some of the projects I'm doing.
Okay, so I'm very curious to see when it will come out and it will be announced. I will be glad to see some of your
Yes.
work. But
Thank you.
but congratulations of all your new projects, even if you're not allowed to say
Well,
it.
I can tell you Les Sabliers, which is an amazing film that's being shot in the Canaries at the moment, and I'm really proud of the cast in that. So it's based on a true story of an Italian and Canadian woman who were traveling through Africa and got kidnapped. And it's called Les Sabliers. and the director is Kim Yuen. I'm very excited about that. I'm very excited for the world to see the fourth season of Walking Dead, which will come out this year. And
Yeah.
the cast in that, I'm so proud of all of them. So I was very proud of season 3 that I cast. I'm very proud of season 4 of Walking Dead. I'm very happy with that. And what else can I say that's there? And I was very happy to see Elena Anaya, who I cast in Rosebush Pruning in Berlin, which was Carrie Manuz's film, and I did the Spanish casting. Nina Gold did the main casting, and I just did a little bit of support with Spanish. But
Yes.
I love Carrie Manuz. I think he's an amazing director.
Okay, perfect. So, okay, that will be the end of our interview. I want to thank you so much to agree to talking with me, and your insight is very helpful for all of the artists that are listening to us. And yes, I want to acknowledge your work and all that you are doing with the Actors Home and your project. So, congratulations again for the Oscars and everything. And yes, thank you so much, Lucy, for agreeing to meet with me.
You're really welcome. Thank you. And thank you for asking such good questions.
Thank you so much, Lucy, and we will see each other surely at the Actors Home.
Perfect. Looking forward to it.
Thank you, Lucy.
Thanks and goodbye.